Yes, Lord, we are back. We are back. And by the way, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but can y'all hear that? Oh yeah, that's joint practices because we got a preseason game this week, baby. Let's go. But we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about practice thus far. We're gonna talk about all that. So welcome back to the Sick Podcast Anvil Show. Sammy, bring us in.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Anvil Show.
Intercepted! Marlon Jackson! Marlon's got it! We're going to the Super Bowl! We're going to the Super Bowl! Marlon Jackson with the interception! He picked off Tom Brady!
The sickest Indianapolis Colts podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And it is in fact sick. To get us started, Sammy, go ahead and hit us with that anvil. Yes, sir. And officially, welcome back. This is the Sick Podcast Anvil Show. I am CJ. I have with me, we're going to rename him for today. We're going to call him Sick P. But let the people who don't already know who you are know who you are.
You can call me Patrick.
Yeah, Sick P.
Or
Thank
you
you
can
for that.
call
Thank
me
you for that,
Snot Boy. That's about all I'm going to be able to get right now.
Snot P. There you go. Hey, Pat, you see your name up there?
Sick P.
But yes, like I said, we are back and we have a lot to talk about because you know what we've already seen thus far. Like I said, we talked about training camp last week. We had another training camp in session last week, and then one that Pat was at that he can actually speak about. But then today was our first joint practice versus the Baltimore Ravens, and that's going to be leading up to our preseason game. But you know what? Before we get into all that, I want to go to you, Pat, right? Because you were at camp and you got to see, I'm going to say, the culmination of how camp was from the beginning, leading up to the second week, from the first weekend up to last weekend, which was this past Saturday. Which, by the way, phenomenal interview with JTT. Make sure that if you have not seen that already, go to the page, go check it out. A lot of information, a lot of good stuff on there. But what have you seen in, I'm going to say, that first week of camp to last week, all the way up until this past Saturday, like the changes, some of the things offensively, defensively?
On an overall basis, this is where this is going to be coming from, is that these guys are more dialed in than I've ever seen anybody at training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Take for last year, for example, the music was going, they were out warming up, doing their dances and all kinds of stuff. This is going to be a big one. Hold on. I can feel it running. Hi, Teresa.
I feel it running.
But they're not doing that this year. Now they're out there having fun. They're signing autographs after practice, not before. And everybody has seen Anthony go through his play
Mental
call
reps.
sheets and get his mental reps in. I don't recall seeing that last year. I might be wrong.
Nah, we didn't.
I just don't recall it. If there is a celebration on the field, it's very minimum after an interception or something like that. If a TD happens, everybody's running over, smacking the helmet, getting right back to the huddle, ready for the next play. So overall, my first thought is these guys are dialed in.
Yeah.
They're ready to play.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you want to talk individually, that can be different. Which way you want me to go with it?
No, I want to hear both because, like I said, you had the chance to see it kind of like from the beginning, right? So, like I'm gonna say I value what you say, not just as my co-host, but also because of the fact that you got to see the culmination of week one all the way to week two. So you got to see like how it started out versus how the consistency remained. What we saw in terms of how people were able to go ahead. By the way, shout out Teresa, shout out to Ray Love. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Make sure that y'all are liking, commenting, sharing, all that good stuff. But like, what have we seen? Because, like I said, like for example, we heard about Wally the first week, right? And then we
Mhm.
heard great things last week. So that means that he was consistently showing exactly what he can do on a week to week basis in that case. So, what did you see in terms of consistency, not just from the individuals and from a team as well? Yes,
Well,
I got a haircut last week, Ray. It was literally last week. See, goes to show you exactly what happened. Like, what are we talking about?
I know everybody. It's on everybody's mind, but consistently, AR is looking phenomenal. Is he perfect? By no means. Um, but he's leading his receivers right. He's not hanging them up to dry. Um, we all seen that catch from Tyler Warren last week where he had to jump up, one hand it, and then catch it with the other hand. Well, that throw was from Daniel Jones, and in a real game, that would have got that man killed.
Hospital ball.
Absolutely got him killed. AR's not making those throws. I'm not saying he hasn't in training camp because nobody's perfect. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure I haven't seen every single throw he's made. But the ones that I have seen, that's where I'm going for. His consistency is getting there. His footwork looks great. Um, he's learned how to use his check downs. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to be really really fun. Really fun. Tyler Warren's definitely as advertised. He's a beast. And I love it because we're seeing a lot of good things from our other tight ends because they're feeling the pressure. They're showing out some skills.
Mhm.
Jelani Woods has looked pretty good. Drew's looked great. I can't say I've really looked at Will Mallory or Mo Alley, but Jelani and Drew, they both have looked really, really well. Um, that defensive front, my goodness, y'all! I'm telling you, that makes this feller happy when our defense is a potential top 10 defense,
Yeah.
and from the front four to the lone safety, we look tight. Everybody looks tight. Everybody seems to know where they're supposed to be. They're where they're supposed to be. And there's no misdirection and miscues or missteps like we've seen the last 3 years. How many times did somebody get burnt and they turned around and looked at somebody else like, hey, I thought you were going to be there.
Yeah.
No, I thought you
Like
were
no
going to there.
lack of
Yeah, I
communication. Yeah.
have not seen that in
Yeah.
training camp this year. And if you see it, that's where you want to see it. You want to see him mess up at training camp,
Mhm.
not during the game. But we're seeing that in the games the last few years. Like, hey, you were supposed to be here. No, I wasn't. You're supposed to be here. And then it's just a big old cluster bomb. No, it just seems like nobody knew where they were supposed to be. But this year, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, and that's not taken away from the offensive side of the ball either, because they've done some phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
And just the short 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of
Mhm.
camp, they have really done some phenomenal things. That O line looks really, really, really tight.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Saturday when um after our interview with JTT, Justin, the lineman we got.
Oh, JTT.
No, the lineman,
Oh, Jalen Travis.
Jalen Travis. That's it. Thank you. He was waiting to go in the media tent, and we're just standing around talking and this and that. And he's like, I think it was Acosta asked him, man, what's your goals for this year? And he's like, keep my quarterback clean. That's it. That's all that man said. Keep my quarterback clean.
Yep.
Bravo.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's the mindset we need. When your O line still has that mindset that that quarterback is that general back there, and we got to protect him at all costs. That's a good thing for us. Keep people off of Anthony. Give Anthony time to let this game slow down. Give Anthony time. to see if he even needs his checkdowns.
Yeah.
You know, when your line breaks down, you don't get that. You get a scrambling quarterback that makes mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, so seeing the O-line perform the way they have, and then talking with Jalen, it was very, very, very comforting to hear.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing even today, right? Because we heard like with some of the players, they were just like, hey, they're out there like normally they'd be like dancing around, just kind of like joking, being very like jovial about everything. And it wasn't anywhere near that. Like it was basically to where they just said, "Oh, well, here's what's gonna like they're really just kind of playing like a little bit like they're more locked in now than they ever have been." And I think it speaks to the urgency. Now, mind you, it needs to translate over to the game because training camp is training camp, and people
Facts.
like to get hung up on numbers, and people like to get hung up on those things. But for me, if I'm looking at training camp, I'm looking at where has the improvement been. It's like there's people who want to point out individual stats for AR throwing for 70%, 80% to this guy and this guy and this guy, but I'm just like, how do those throws look? Where is there more consistent touch on the passes that he's throwing that makes you believe that he's going to be able to throw more efficiently to the shorts, to throw like I said, within that 5-10 yards and whatever it may be. And like that's the stuff that I want to like I'm going to say the most excited to see, because that's going to be the true indicator of where everybody's at. Like what did you do in the offseason to like truly just get better than you were last season?
Now, Chris, if you're a fan of this game, you've heard coaches always say it starts in practice. If you've played this game, you've damn sure heard the coaches say it starts in practice.
Yeah.
Well, that's what training camp is. It's practice.
Yeah.
I didn't come out and say anything about anybody's stats, how many catches they had or how many throws they had or how many sacks they had, because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. How you practice matters. And from what I'm seeing, these boys are dialed in their practices, which is going to translate to game time.
Yep,
absolutely. So you can search for the training camp stats all you want, but it's not going to do you a whole lot of good, only because it's practice. You wouldn't look at a practice report looking for stats, would you?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. No, why? Because it's practice. I might be able to do my Allen Iverson practice. You're talking about practice? That I'm all clogged up and can't speak right. But anyways, that's what training camp is. It's practice. Sometimes it's like practice, like when they're on the 7-7s. There's no hitting there. It's basically just going through the motions, learning your plays, learning your counts. Even 11 on 11 with pads on, there is hitting, but it's not full contact.
Yeah,
there's hitting, but it's not full contact. They're not trying to rip your head off like they are in a game. Those are two different scenarios. So
100%. Yeah.
When you're looking at training camp, look for those things like Chris was talking about. How is the line gelling? Is the line, picking up blocks? Is your guard reaching over and helping that center? Is your right side stepping over and helping that tackle? If the defensive end shoots on the inside, is your tackling closing down and helping that guard, or even backing out, trying to pick him up coming through the center? These are the things that I'm looking for.
Exactly.
How has Anthony's throws been? Have they been in the breadbasket? Have they been a step or two behind? Is he using his check downs? How's his feet work looking? Does he look like he's, tap dancing back there because he's just not sure of himself? And everything I'm seeing, my friend, is absolutely stellar.
Yeah, and I think that's what, because the thing is, there's and like I said, we talked about it last week with kind of like the doom and gloomers, right? Because we know that when you have people who are consistently going to say, well, Anthony Richardson's not it, it's just like he needs to be out of here, whatever you're going to say, that's fine. But the thing is, we also know that, when we're talking about how he's looking when it comes to his footwork and how it looks at those are things you really can't deny because of the fact that he's literally had those issues last year. And, like I said, we're not going to see anything stat wise until the regular season. I mean, it is what it is. But also,
right. And you shouldn't want to see any stats right now.
Oh yeah,
just like in a weekly practice, you're not looking for stats.
Yeah,
you're looking to make sure everybody got healthy. You're making sure everybody's on the field, making things of this nature. You don't look for stats. Don't look for stats in training camp. You can. It's just not going to do you a whole lot of good.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think there are people who go to it because I'm not disqualifying anybody's opinions or anything like that. But what I'm saying is there are people who look specifically at stats because to them it's like if they're looking for something that they can latch onto, they're automatically going to go to like numbers to say that, right? Because
Right.
for us, like the way that we look at things from being fans, or I'm just going to say even being on this podcast, you being a former, trenches guy, me just being somebody who has looked at, like, I'm going to say who watches the game of football pretty consistently. I'm like, we can use stats as an indicator of where somebody is, but stats aren't always going to tell the whole entire story. So that's the reason why I think
That's
for me,
very factual.
so I think for me, it's like, like I have these discussions daily. Like we do this all the time on Twitter where it's just like we go into spaces and, we do all these, have all these discussions because that's what we do. It's the off season. But I think the biggest thing that we always tend to miss is the fact that we don't we have to have the patience to be able to look at camp and just say, okay, fantastic. Because the problem is that we get so hung up on something that looks good that we then like we get too excited and then we get away from the fact that it's just like we don't say, all right, that looks good. We need to see that more consistently. We say, yup, he's arrived, 70% completion percentage, 5,000 yards, and so and so, this, that, and the other. When in reality, it's just like if you really believe that, just a good showing at training camp means that somebody's going to automatically just be this all world Hall of Famer now. It's just like I think you're looking past consistency and just looking towards, just going into like a microwave mindset where you're just like, oh, that's good enough for me.
Yep. Are you like getting dressed back there or something? Why am I looking at a black screen?
No, my video is slowing down a little bit, so I'm seeing if like I can kind of fidget with things, but I didn't want it to be a distraction from the scene. So you can still hear me, but like I said, I'm trying to get that figured out because my internet has been absolutely trash recently. Yeah, so it's been bad. But the thing, like, so I'm gonna say, so other than that, and then also, so for you, I'm gonna say thus far, what's been the most surprising on both sides of the ball in terms of the offense and defense at training camp? And what's the thing that you're just like, I would like to see more, but I just don't know
yet? Ooh, that's a big
you did it. You did
right there.
You didn't know that I was gonna. Yep, you're welcome.
You're picking on a sick guy now. Honestly, man, in the last 5 years, Chris, I can't say that I've ever seen these players taking training camp as personal as they have this year. Without the dancing, without the horsing around until after practice. Now they're still going out around the fans, having fun after practice. But it's the before part is what I'm talking about. There's nobody out there dancing. There's nobody doing crazy stuff. They're really dialed in, and that makes me always think back to how many years now are we on a streak losing the home opener?
If we lose this year, then I believe it'll be
It'd
Well,
be
actually,
like
I think we
12,
lost 10. We're up to 10 now.
10. Yeah. So seeing that makes me real happy that hopefully we can break that streak.
Yeah.
And they're inducting Jim Irsay into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be bittersweet for a lot of these players. Some of these young guys really didn't get a chance to know Jim,
Yeah.
but a lot of them have, so I know that's going to be real bittersweet for them. But they're just taking it serious. They're absolutely taking it all very serious, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's how champions are made.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're
100%.
just out there for a paycheck, you ain't never going nowhere. But if you're out there and y'all got one vision, one goal, and that's what you're working at, hello.
Yep, one band, one sound.
Yes, sir. Something that I want to see more of. Man, I haven't really seen it at training camp yet. But again, I haven't watched all the videos. I haven't been out there every day. But I would like to see some more bombs from Anthony.
Really?
And some more bombs from Daniel Jones. If this is actually a QB competition, let's open them up.
Okay.
Let's open both of them up and see what they got. Because those big splash plays like that, although you don't work them into a game plan, the game itself will give you opportunities for those.
Yeah, true.
So I want to see, who the better arm is out there, and I believe it's going to be Anthony.
Yeah, 100%.
But just for fairness sakes, you gotta let Danny boy have his arm throw a couple of them too.
Yeah, and I think I had this discussion today, just talking about the fact that Daniel Jones, the way that they ran the defense or the offense with him in New York, it was a very it was like a Patriots light offense post Randy Moss, right? Because we
Yes.
know that Tom Brady at one point they had it was very similar to an air raid offense. But then when you have like the Julian Edelmans, who aren't guys who are necessarily good route runners, but that they're strong when it comes to being able to I'm gonna say they're not strong or they're not fast, but they're good route runners. That's what I meant to say.
Yep.
But the thing is, when that you have those types of things, then how do you make sure that your offense is effective? You do that by making sure that you make it as short as possible. So that's the reason why, when it came down to that, I knew what Daniel Jones was, but I didn't quite know exactly what it was until you realize it's just he was completing a lot of passes to guys like Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, those types of guys. And then
Yeah, he really did have a dink and dunk approach in New York.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest issue for me, because of the fact that, when that you have those things, I'm going to say going deep, for example, when teams went and said, okay, well, we're just going to play you short. We're going to play a shorter. I'm going to say we're going to condense the field and we're going to make you pass deep. That's when he wasn't truly able to go ahead and just be that high volume passer, because his accuracy when going deep wasn't that good. That's where he ended up going to a lot of that, I'm gonna say, hospital ball. Not to say that he always does that, but I think once he got to the deeper parts of the field, that's when you saw it's just that's where it is, which is kind of like what we saw the other day, because we saw when he had that pass to Tyler Warren, that pass was high. And when that pass is high like that, they were saying, oh yeah, well, that was a great pass, it looked good. But the problem was that if Tyler Warren goes up for that, which he more than likely will, he's going to get rocked. And that's going to be something that isn't going to be good for him, because then you have another hurt tight end in this room that just can't seem to stay healthy. So that becomes an issue.
Throwing him hospital balls, like you said.
Yeah. And the hospital balls, it's just we can't, we have to, and this is AR too. So I'm not just coming down on Daniel Jones, but AR also has to really just get down to this, making sure that he's using that great arm strength but he's making sure that he's throwing with enough velocity to make sure that it's getting there, but he's not putting his wide receivers in the way of harm.
Exactly. Exactly. And the passes that I've seen from him, like I said, they're not perfect by no means. Um, but they're pretty good. They
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
they are pretty good. Very recoverable passes. When he is a bit behind, um, for the catch and yards after.
Yeah,
Some of those crossing routes we've seen through camp, and you guys got to remember too, if you don't think all 31 other teams has a representative out at camp, everybody's camp, especially if they're playing them this year, you're wrong.
yeah,
There's spies everywhere. So what you see at training camp are really generic plays.
yeah,
So
yeah,
don't expect to see those kind of plays in a regular season game,
yeah.
just because they know they got people from around the league that's there. I guarantee you somebody from the Titans organization's there recording everything.
Oh,
And
one
they're
hundred
not
percent.
supposed to, but they do. And I'm sure we send people out to Tennessee, Jacksonville, Houston, wherever, and to do the same thing.
Yeah,
But it's okay.
and I think that's fine because that's why, like, to a certain extent, when we're talking about, like, for example, they said that they were giving Lamar heck today at camp, and that is just like it's good to hear because generally it's just like and this is going back to what we heard from Gus Bradley. You got to earn the right to rush the passer, but if you can make sure that you're going after Lamar Jackson at a high enough clip, that means that you already have things in mind for how you're going to get to the quarterback. And he's probably the most elusive quarterback in the league. So, and the thing is, no matter whether they're going like a base offense or anything like that, I think the defense being able to not just play, but also make sure that they're keeping up with Lamar Jackson, that speaks volumes to how Lou Anarumo is. With the don't be late, make sure that you get there when you're supposed to, make sure that we're doing what we need to, make sure that we're doing our jobs, not just sitting there and telling people, well, you know what, just stay in your spots. And if we earn the
The
right to
ball
rush the
will come
passer,
to
then
you.
we'll run. Yeah, it's just like that ball will come to you nonsense. It's just like, no, make somebody make a mistake and force a turnover. Like what is so hard about
I don't know.
that?
Gus couldn't figure it out for some
Yeah,
reason.
well, absolutely not. So yeah, either way. But one thing I did want to talk about, right? Because we heard a lot about this guy last week, and it's great to hear it now because of the fact that we hear exactly what's going on. It's AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell started out crazy, like to the point where it was just like, I don't know about this guy. And then I'm gonna say over the last few days, like I'm gonna say since even like a couple days before the night practice, he's actually been really, really like putting on, doing what he needs to do. Like even today, like
He's been
getting the
putting on a
best.
clinic out there.
Exactly. And once again, I think that just goes to show, like, yeah, like AD, I think is going to be somebody where it's just like, yeah, it was kind of tough coming out in camp, but now you're just like, oh yeah, he's gonna put in some work because like we're too quick, and I think it's too quick, especially as a fan base. We are way, way, way too quick to just automatically say, "Oh no, things don't look good. He's out." Wait, or like there's no way. Like we don't need to do it. And to that I say,
They,
you know,
they've done it with Pierce. They've done it with AR. They started doing it with AD last year, and some of the criticism you're not wrong on. Some of the criticism, the same criticism that we put on this show, like when he
yep,
had those gator arms.
yep,
Yeah, we all knew you cannot survive in this league like that. He's fixed it,
yeah,
but being critical of somebody's play versus being critical of the player, two different things, in my opinion.
yeah,
We criticized him for doing the gator arms, for being worried about taking that hit versus getting the ball, getting down, and then worrying about the hit. Get the ball first. Not that we ever thought that he wouldn't work out. You go back and you look at his stats, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL as a rookie in separation. And he's showing it again this year.
Yeah.
My God, that kid is like a magician running those routes.
Yeah. And I think this year, well, not this year, but today even, he was going up against Nate Wiggins, who last year he had a good rookie season. And yet here he was, basically going out there and, just running a route. And I mean, he's beating the guy by a mile. And that's the thing about AD. Like, we know that AD has the speed and we know that he separates quickly because his motor is like that. But it's just going to be making sure, for one, that you're not afraid to go up there and get the ball. And two, that you're getting the ball consistently. Because to me, if it comes down to AD beating people and somebody getting the ball like 25, 30 yards down the field, I don't trust Daniel Jones to do that.
I don't either.
But I mean, you do trust AR to an extent. But the thing is, AR is going to have to prove that he's going to be able to get the ball to him consistently. Because if he does that, then to me, it's game over. But that's going to be something that has to be proven. And that I'm not just going to say because it's a hypothetical that I'm just going to imagine into existence. Like, it has to happen on the field.
Got to. It's got to happen. It's at this point, it all has to come together for Anthony. It really absolutely
does. And speaking of Anthony, and I want to say this because I know sometimes I go back and forth with people, and it's just like generally it's all in good fun. Sometimes, but the thing is, it's just like there was talk about like the quote that AR said previously, right? Where he said, if you put, he was like, I know that I have to, win the job. It's like, even if they thought even if they brought Tom Brady in here, he's the greatest, but I just have to work and try to beat him out. It's a me versus me type of thing. And, there was a lot of people who got weird about that. And, I mean, it's just.
They only got weird because he said Tom Brady and not Peyton Manning.
Well, no,
that's the only thing they got weird about.
But it wasn't that, because, I mean, you have geezers out here saying that it's just like, oh, yes, well, he said now he's ready to beat out Tom Brady. And it's just like, sir, take your Metamucil and go to bed. Because
that's not what he said.
No. Yeah, that's not what AR said. But the thing, and I think the issue with AR right now is that he's extremely polarizing. Like, he's extremely polarizing to the point where there are people who want to, I'm going to say, paint a certain picture because we know that he went through the growing pains last season, and they just want to believe that he's not going to ever change because that's not good of, that's not what he's going to do because he can never do that. And I think what we're seeing in real time is that maturation process kind of happening, with him being out there every single day early, making sure that he's getting out there and going on the field, going over the plays, doing the mental reps, whatever it may be. And he's doing that. And he's doing that consistently. So for me, if I'm looking at what he's doing, I see somebody who definitely is saying certain things, but I think the actions are now starting to kind of match the words. But I just want to see if it's going to be past training camp. Will we see that for the next 18 weeks once the season starts as well?
Well, hopefully, yeah, and hopefully we keep seeing improvement. What I want out of AR is still improvement every game. Still at this point, I still don't expect him to be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback.
Yeah,
but I do expect him to be getting better every game.
Yeah.
That those are still my expectations. And from what I'm seeing at training camp, he has definitely made a giant leap in year 3.
Yeah, I think so. Like Chris Ballard has kind of downplayed it a little bit, like in terms of it being like a make or break or kind of like a do or die year. And I think while you don't want to say it, in the back of your mind, that there's definitely much more urgency this year than there has been before. and it's only because of where everything is. Like AR's in year 3. AR can't have have a year like he had in year 2 in year 3, because that means that things have gone straight to heck.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
and that's the reason why I think I'm more so just very much I'm very much dead center when it comes down to AR. I'm not going to be pessimistic because, like I said, there is room for improvement, but I'm not going to be overly optimistic because I know that it's going to take more than one day of good for him to be able to consistently get through an 18-week season.
Yep.
Because there's going to be a lot of adversity. There's going to be different teams. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be all these different things. But how are you responding in kind to all of that stuff happening? And how are you going to make sure that you don't have those issues, moving forward?
And it doesn't even have to be an injury to him.
Oh, yeah.
It could be an injury to a receiver that he just has a great connection to.
Mm-hmm.
And if he loses that, he loses that connection. And now another receiver stepping in, and he's got to build that connection with him. Those things take time.
Yeah.
So you're spitting facts, man. Absolutely facts. Everybody just wants to come down on the young man just because he hasn't taken us to the promised land yet.
Yeah.
What did you guys expect?
Well, yeah.
And even us, myself, Clyde, and Chris, we love AR. We love his potential. We love the strides that he's making, but we still haven't crowned him king.
Exactly.
He still has a lot to prove. He still has a lot to do, but we're definitely willing to give the young man a chance because we're definitely now seeing all the improvements that he's made in the offseason. So keep him healthy, keep him upright, keep him clean, give him the time, and I believe he's going to be the quarterback we've been looking for.
Yeah.
I really do, Chris.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why, like, and I've said it because we've, it's kind of what it takes, right? Because I also think that there's something of an unrealistic thought process that makes us believe that AR has to be a 5,000-yard passer, 50 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,000-yard rusher, and 12 touchdowns in order for us to be good, in order for us to be a great team and do all these great things. When in reality, it's really just going to boil down to how consistently are we going to be able to, I'm going to say, play at the level that we need to? What will our identity be? Because we also can make sure that we have an identity of we're going to make sure that we have a run-centric offense. We're going to play tough defense. And like I said, the passing is going to be something much simpler, but then it's also going to make sure that you don't have AR going for 35, 40, 45, 50 passes per game.
Mm-hmm.
And how will that be the indicator for what we're going to do? Because if you can go ahead, if we have at least an offensive identity, and we say, you know what, our offensive identity is going to be that we're going to run, and the game is going to start with the run, and we're going to go for the pass. The pass is going to be, dictated through everything else. Then I think by then you understand exactly what this team is going to be, and you're using this team to its fullest. I'm going to say to its fullest potential.
Well, I haven't heard Coach Shane take back anything he said in his introduction press conference. Pass to score, run to win.
Yeah,
I think that's still his mindset with it.
Yeah, I think it is. I 100% think it is. We're doing ourselves a disservice by believing that AR is going to be the end all be all for this team, as opposed to saying he needs to develop and we need to have an offense that makes sure that we're utilizing him properly, but not just solely depending on him when you have somebody like Jonathan Taylor and you have the O-line that we have.
And a defense that's going to keep you in the games and give you extra chances.
Yeah.
Getting that ball back. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's coming around. Everything's lining up.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the defense is going to be better. I think, like I said, we talked about this before. Prior to Gus Bradley being here, the last year that Eberflus was here, where we led the league in turnover ratio. So we basically were turning the ball over at an astounding rate. And then we went from that to just sitting back and waiting for, the action to come to us on defense. Whereas now, going back to somewhat of an attacking defense, now you're going to see that there's going to be opportunities for them to rush the passer, opportunities for them to press the wide receivers, to be good, to even be better than what we even imagined. So I think the team is going to have an overall new look, at least like on the defensive side. I am still, and I think to a certain extent, I am still hesitant to see exactly what the offense is going to look like. But we have to be able to make sure that we're being as realistic as possible with the fact that Anthony Richardson is going to show progression. But we have to temper our expectations to make sure that we understand that progression is going to be him potentially only being maybe like 54, 55%, something along those lines. It's going to be him not just chucking the ball deep all the time, but seeing it at a much lower rate, but then also seeing that he's completing those short passes to, I'm going to say to I'm going to say more of the underneath and more of those things. So I think we have to be able to understand that this offense, in order for this offense to be better and order for this offense to be more successful, we need to understand that a lot of those big shot plays where Anthony Richardson is throwing 67 yards down the field, some of that stuff isn't going to happen as frequently as it did previously, but rather we're going to see that in situations where Jonathan Taylor has ran the ball consistently enough where the play action is going to go ahead and catch the defense off guard. And we see that he's going to open the ball up and pass deep to AD or Alec Pierce. And then that's going to be that big chunk play. Like, we have to understand that Anthony Richardson, for explosive he's going to be, he can be explosive, but he needs to be efficient first.
Yep. Now, speaking of being first, reports came out that he's starting Thursday.
Yes.
What do you expect to see from him?
So, you know what? It's a great thing because I think Ravens, like, there's been conflicting things. Like, they're saying that they may not have like the first unit out there. We may only see like the second unit. But I think going against a defense like the Ravens to start out, especially starting out the beginning of the game, is a fantastic thing. Because now you're going to get to prove in real time, what you can do versus this defense. We beat the defense, but that was with Gardner Minshew 2 years ago. And so now you're going to have to see Anthony Richardson in real time, how he's going to react to a defense that's going to be sending pressure, how he's going to react, how he's going to be diagnosing the defense, what his footwork and what those mechanics are going to look like under duress, being that they're not going to just sit there and just put, just count 5 Mississippis and then rush him with 4 people. Like,
right.
you're going.
I haven't heard if our starting O-line is going to start.
Yeah, and even
I just don't know. Besides Anthony starting the game, that's the only thing I've heard, or only name that I've heard that's guaranteed starting.
Yeah, and also just to let you know, he's getting a quarter and a half. So I believe that he's going to be getting the first full quarter and half of the second, and I think Daniel Jones is going to finish the a half of the second quarter, and then he'll have the third, and I think Riley Leonard is going to finish out the fourth. So
what about Bean? We give up on Bean already?
I don't think we gave up on Bean, but then again, it's just like we're going to see. But then also that's how it's going to flip flop. So, what's the name? So I think we're going to see that they're going. Daniel Jones is going to play the first quarter and a half of the Packers preseason game, and then AR is going to do the second, the half of the second quarter and the third quarter.
I can dig it.
Yeah. So I think there's more than enough room for, I'm going to say, for both to happen, but I like this as AR's first official test because no matter how you view, the Ravens or, like I said, what unit they're going to be playing, they're still the Ravens who are going to be able to, I'm going to say, send out enough pressure and actually just see if AR responds the way that we would like for him to respond. Because I think that's going to be the thing that's going to be the most important, seeing how he's going to react in real game situation, even though it's a preseason game, how he's going to react in a real game situation, and whether or not everything's going to hold up. And well, and also I think first, because I also wanted to check the depth chart, but I'm gonna just go ahead and make sure that I check on that after everything is said and done. But I want to, like I said, I think we're going to. I like this as a test for AR because he's going to have to, and I'm going to say he's going to have to really just prove his mettle. Like, what did you do in the off season? Because we know even though he didn't go with Chris Hess, he sat down with his quarterback coach. He sat down with the OCs and just like, hey, what did you see? What is this looking like? And so they had the opportunity to go over all that information. And so that's where he kind of worked on the mechanics, the footwork, and everything. But I want to see how he's going to be able to apply it on a defense that's not going to be his own.
Yep. No more 5 Mississippis.
No more 5 Mississippis. Because I hated that. I hated that. And and like I said, in training camp is I'm gonna say a semi good indicator of progress, but it's never going to tell you the full story. Because I remember last year when we were out at training camp, we saw that he was throwing all these crazy out routes to Kylan Granson, and everything was looking good with those fades. And then we saw as soon as Kylan Granson got into game situations, that man was out there giving it up.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, yeah, so
Thursday's gonna be a special day.
Yeah, and we're gonna. I think we're like seeing exactly how seeing how the team is going to respond, seeing how they're going to come out. I think this is going to be the first indicator. I think especially for the defense, because the defense, Lou's running a tight ship, and I can see that Lou isn't going to allow for any nonsense, any of the nonsense that we dealt with before. I think we're going to see that we're going to get the opportunity to see people actually go and have to step up and do what they need to do. Oh, and by the way, just want to make sure that we go ahead and just shout out to Stacy. I know we shout out Teresa, shout out to Chris, Gloria. So thank you everybody for tuning in. So,
and if you haven't seen the Facebook page, a good friend of ours, Brian, I don't know if he's on Facebook, but I know he's on Twitter, gave us his tickets to the Green Bay game, and we're doing a giveaway for those tickets. And all you got to do is hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page. If you've already hit the subscribe button, you're already entered.
Yep.
So if you have it, make sure you entered.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, it's just like it's free tickets to a preseason game, so I don't think anybody's gonna care about that. And like I said, it's a great way to get back in the building before the season starts. So yeah, definitely make sure that you go to the page and look how you can go and get in and do all those great things. So for you, Pat, because like I said, we're gonna be out there this Sunday, assuming that you decide to drink your chicken, or you just eat your chicken noodle soup and drink your Sprite. Assuming that you'd go and do that.
You might want to stay away from me. I might be in quarantine.
It's all right. I listen. I eat plenty of fruit daily. Not only that, but the thing is, I consider myself a pretty healthy person. So when it comes down to it, if I need to, I'll just spray you with Lysol. So it's all good. Like we just gonna have to make sure, got to make sure that we make it a sanitary environment for Moon Pie. So we make sure that everything is gonna go as it should. But so I'm gonna say, so for you, and I'm gonna ask you this, and then like I said, we can go ahead and get out of here. What are 3 things that you're going to be looking for at this preseason game coming up?
The main thing that I'm going to be looking for is the training camp mentality that I spoke on earlier. Is it going to be on that field?
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing I'm going to be looking for. The second thing is just overall fundamentals from everybody that I possibly can. Is the O line doing their fundamentals? D line same, AR same. Just looking for the fundamental things that should be corrected at this point, but can be corrected if they're not. Everything always going to go back to fundamentals. Uh, Third thing, just overall togetherness. How well is everybody going to be playing together? Are they going to be looking lost like they were last year? Like, oh, I thought you was there. No, I thought you was there. That kind of stuff. Just the simple fundamentals of the game is, yeah, that's going to be my big ones, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be a big thing because for me, it's, well, first and foremost, AR's mechanics footwork in a real game scenario because I want to see him do it in the game, not just on training camp field and in a red jersey. Like I really want to see him be able to apply it in real time, and then that's going to be a big thing. I think for me, it's going to be how the defense responds. How are you going to react when it comes down to, if Lamar Jackson plays? If he doesn't, then so be it. But if he does, then how is he going to respond in regards to, that pressure that they're going to be sending? Because mind you, Lou was in the AFC North for years upon years. And so, like I said, he's familiar with Lamar Jackson. And I think a lot of what they are sending at AR during practice is a lot of the same stuff that they sent at Lamar, just trying to see if AR can kind of get a grasp. Maybe not the same way because they're not the same player, but just seeing how that stuff works in real time, how the defense is going to look. Because, like I said, I know that he's going to send a lot of disguise coverages. I know he's going to send a lot of guys out there, but I want to see how he's going to. I'm going to say how many looks he's going to send out there. If the defense is vanilla, I get it 100%, but also how is he going to be able to react? Because I know this might be the same defense, but it's going to be completely different defensive personnel. And the other thing is, I want to see how those draftees look, because like I said, the draftees like JTT, like DJ Giddens, hopefully Wally's okay. But seeing how those guys are able to play in real time, how that's going to look. Because if that looks good, then I think that we're actually going to be cooking with fire, but we're going to have to see.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
That and get my glasses on so I'm not looking like, what's that cartoon, Mr. Magoo? Oh,
There you go.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. Absolutely ready, sir.
Yes, absolutely. So with that being said, we're actually going to get out of here so that Pat can, take some wheat germ, and he can go and do what he needs to do. Tell the people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on X at Big P Colts. Not sick P.
And you can
Thanks,
find
Sammy.
me. You can find me on Twitter at CJ Colts fan. Also, you can find us on z103.com as well as Mix 105. We go live, or not live, but we are. You can hear the broadcast again on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, on z103.com. If you haven't already, make sure that you download the app. It's on the Apple and Android store, so you can just go ahead and download that and just hear us again. And then also, just to make sure that I have it correct, you can also listen to our London Blokes on VIP One Lounge Extra, I believe, and that's going to be the one that you can hear us all the way in the UK, or you can give that to whoever you may be related to in the UK, or if sometimes you just want to see what's going on, then you'll be able to do that. So absolutely, it's all good. And then also make sure that you go to Visit Indy. Can you please pull up the QR code for us? And yes, when you go to Visit Indy, that's where you can find out all the events happening in the Indianapolis area, different restaurant offerings, festivals, events, all types of things. If you scan that QR code, you can use that website, and then they'll be able to go over all that information with you. And lastly, the podcast, you can find us at Sick Pod Colts on Twitter, right there. And what were you going to say, Pat?
I was just going to say that QR code will be your best friend anytime you're coming to a game. Hotels, restaurants, you name it. That QR code is going to have everything you possibly need. Parking, you name it. It's got it. If you're sticking around after the game, it's got all the amenities after the game, the zoos, the museums, Indianapolis Indians, you name it. It's got it all. That QR code will be your best friend coming into town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with that being said, please make sure that you're using that. We will see you next week. If you're at training camp this weekend, we will be there on August 10th, assuming that Pat is able to rid himself of Ebola.
Good.
So,
yes, Don, we will be tailgating again in the Blue Crew lot at the north side of the stadium. You can't miss us. We've got the only blue RV in the lot. Hope you can come out and come to a game and have a couple shots with us, Don.
All right, absolutely. So once again, everybody, we appreciate you for coming out. We will see you next Tuesday. In the meantime, enjoy the game this Thursday. And anybody coming to training camp this weekend, we will see you on Sunday. Other than that, have a good week and have a great weekend, everybody. Sammy, take us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast and Bill Show on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.